Hello Highlanders, this is Lucy Hopkins and I'm here reporting for The Great Scot, McLean's bi-weekly world news wrap-up series. Now, as you may have noticed, we missed the month of December due to some technological issues, but we are back with a full review of the month of December, the top 5 news stories of that, and then in a few days you'll have the first 2 weeks of January covered for you. So in early December, the Hong Kong protests were finalized. Okay, so these were some pro-democracy protests that the Hong Kong police tried to shut down outside of the government headquarters in Hong Kong. Now, things began heating up in August when politicians said that the citizens could choose a leader, but that the government would choose 2 or 3 candidates from which the citizens could choose. And the citizens were unhappy with this because they wanted a full democracy like the US has. So in late September, students got involved, and by early October, these protests were occurring regularly, and there was some violence on behalf of the police force in Hong Kong. Now on December 10th, after the protesters had already been protesting for just around 10 weeks, the government workers finally came in and started clearing up their main camp, and there wasn't really a lot of pushback on that. So after about 10 weeks, the Hong Kong protests finally came to an end. To read what I wrote. Okay. On November 24th, several unreleased Sony films, personal information about employees, emails, information about the salaries given to executives at Sony, and emails between workers were released by hackers under the pseudonym GOP, which stood for Guardians of Peace. And although the group was originally thought to be North Korean because of their threat to Sony regarding the movie The Interview, the plot of which centers around the killing of Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, the cybersecurity experts that were pulled in to look at the case now believe that the Sony employees were actually behind it, and whether or not these employees are former or still working at the company is unknown. Now on December 16th, 9 gunmen associated with the TTP, which is a terrorist group, attacked an army public school in Peshawar, killing 145 people, including 132 school-aged children. Pakistan's special forces were able to kill the 9 gunmen and save the lives of 960 people, although over 120 were believed to be injured, and this attack was the deadliest ever to occur in Pakistan. Okay, next up we're going to talk about Eric Garner. Now on July 17th, 2014, Eric Garner died in Staten Island, New York, after a police officer, Daniel Pantaleo, 29, placed him in a chokehold, which is a prohibited position to place people in under NYPD guidelines. Now, Garner was arrested for selling loose tax stamp-free cigarettes on the street, and Garner had been arrested 30 times since 1980 on charges such as assault, resisting arrest, and grand larceny. And the police officer who was arresting him, Daniel Pantaleo, had in 2013 by 2 plaintiffs been accused of falsely arresting and abusing them. Now, Daniel Pantaleo took Garner into the chokehold position after Garner resisted arrest and held him to the ground while he repeated, "I can't breathe," 11 times before losing his breath. Now, once Garner had lost consciousness, officers placed him on his side and called an ambulance. They did not give him CPR because he was still believed to be breathing, but Garner died later that same day. And on December 3rd, when Pantaleo was not indicted thanks to the decision by a grand jury, rallies and protests broke out across the U.S. And by December 31st, more than 50 had happened nationwide. Okay, and finally in entertainment news, Netflix is adding a whole bunch of new titles, including Braveheart, Good Will Hunting, Anchorman 2, several of the James Bond movies, the American Horror Story Coven season, and all episodes of Friends. Okay, that's all we have this week, but I'll see you again for the early January edition of Great Scott. Once again, this is Lucy Hopkins. Thanks for watching. Get to tune in next time for McLean's Great Scott.